Hey guys, remember the story of the reserve police officer in the state of Maine that he went out and purchased a handgun, and they said, well, reserve cops aren't authorized to get a handgun. Remember that guy? And the police department had said, well, we checked him out, and we found that he's a legal document or legal immigrant. And then it came out that he was an illegal immigrant, that his visa had expired, and he didn't get it renewed, and he was here illegally. Well, the update is that reserve cop, or I guess he's a former reserve cop now, has decided to go back to his country. I think he was from Jamaica, right? I believe so. I think that's the editorial where I tried to do the Yaman. Uh, but he's agreed to go back. He said, I'll go, maybe it was Haiti. I don't remember, but he's going back. He's agreed to leave the United States and go back to his country. So apparently, I guess he wasn't a legal immigrant. But he was hired as a reserve cop here in Maine, in the United States, as a legal immigrant. Wow. What a tangled web they weaved. And now on to our story.
One day somebody does something unspeakable to someone else, to someone you hardly knew. Man, you do something about it because you can.
This story comes to us from the Los Angeles Times. In a police department with a long tradition of colorful nicknames from Jigsaw John to Captain Hollywood, LAPD Sergeant Joseph Lloyd stands out. Yeah, he's called the Grim Reaper. At least that's what some on the force have taken to calling that veteran internal affairs detective, usually out of earshot, though. According to officers who have found themselves under investigation by Lloyd, he seems to relish the moniker and takes pleasure in ending careers, even if it means twisting facts and ignoring evidence. What? Back to that. But Lloyd's backers maintain his dogged pursuit of the truth is why he has been entrusted with some of the department's most politically sensitive and potentially embarrassing cases. Lloyd, who's 52, declined to comment, but the LA Times spoke to more than half a dozen current or former police officials who either worked alongside him or fell under his scrutiny. During the near decade that he's been in internal affairs, Lloyd has investigated cops of all ranks. When a since retired LAPD officer was suspected of running guns across the Mexican border, the department turned to Lloyd to bust him. In 2020, when it came out that members of the elite Metropolitan Division were falsely labeling civilians as gang members in a police database, Lloyd was tapped to help unravel the mess. And when a San Fernando Valley anti-gang squad was accused in 2023 of covering up shakedowns of motorists in swooped the Reaper, Lloyd. Recently, he was assigned to a department task force looking into allegations of excessive force by police against activists who opposed the government's immigration crackdown. At the LAPD, as in most big city police departments across the country, internal affairs investigators tend to be viewed with suspicion and contempt by their colleagues.
You know how they recruited IAD? They catch you on the take, and they tell you you can either do time or join them.
They usually try to operate in relative anonymity. Not Lloyd. The 24-year LAPD veteran has inadvertently become the face of a pitched debate over the LAPD's long maligned disciplinary system. The union that represents most officers has long complained that well-connected senior leaders get favorable treatment. Others counter that rank and file cops who commit misconduct are routinely let off the hook. A recent study commissioned by Chief Jim McDonnell of the LAPD found that perceived unfairness in internal investigations is a serious point of contention among officers that has contributed to low morale. McDonnell has said he wants to speed up investigations and better screen complaints, but efforts by past chiefs and the city council to overhaul the system have repeatedly stalled. Sarah Dunster was a sergeant working in the LAPD's Hollywood division in 2021 when she learned she was under investigation for allegedly mishandling a complaint against one of her officers who was accused of groping a woman he arrested. Dunster said she remembers being interviewed by Lloyd, whose questions seemed designed to trip her up and catch her in a lie. That's what it's for. Rather than aimed at hearing the account of what happened, she said. That's what they do. Some of her responses never made it into Lloyd's report. She said he wanted to fire me. Dunster was terminated over the incident, but she appealed, and last week a Los Angeles County Superior Court judge granted a reprieve that allows her to potentially get her job back. Others who have worked with Lloyd say he is regarded as a savvy investigator who is unfairly being vilified for discipline decisions that are ultimately made by the chief of police. A supervisor who oversaw Lloyd at Internal Affairs and requested anonymity because they are not authorized to speak to the media, described him as a smart, meticulous, and a bulldog. He said Joe just goes where the facts lead him, and he doesn't have an issue asking the hard questions, the supervisor said. On more than one occasion, the supervisor added, Internal Affairs received complaints from senior department officials who thought that Lloyd didn't show them enough deference during interrogations. Other supporters point to his willingness to take on controversial cases to hold officers accountable, even while facing character attacks from his colleagues, their attorneys, and the powerful Los Angeles Police Protective League. Officers have sniped about his burly build, tendency to smile during interviews, and other eccentricities. He wears 2 watches, one on each wrist, a habit he has been heard saying he picked up moonlighting as a high school lacrosse referee. But he has also been criticized as rigid and uncompromising, seeming to fixate only on details that point to an officer's guilt. People he has grilled say that when he doesn't get the answer he's looking for, he has a Columbo-esque tendency to ask the same question in different ways in an attempt to elicit something incriminating. And instead of asking officers to clarify any discrepancies in their statements, Lloyd automatically assumes they're lying, said some critics. Mario Munoz, a former LAPD Internal Affairs lieutenant, who opened a boutique firm that assists officers fighting employment and disciplinary cases, he recently released a scathing 60-page report questioning what he called a series of troubling lapses in the LAPD's 2023 investigation of the Mission Gang unit. The report name drops Lloyd several times. The department accused several mission officers of stealing brass knuckles and other items from motorists in the San Fernando Valley and attempting to hide their actions from their supervisors by switching off their body-worn cameras. Munoz said he received calls from officers who said Lloyd had violated their due process rights, which potentially opens the city up to liability. Several have since lodged complaints against Lloyd with the department. He alleged Lloyd ultimately singled out several scapegoats to shield higher-level leadership from scrutiny. Until he retired from the LAPD in 2014, Munoz worked as both an investigator and an auditor who reviewed landmark internal investigations into the beating of black motorist Rodney King and the Rampart gang scandal, in which officers were accused of robbing people and planting evidence, among other crimes. That was the one with Rafael Perez. Munoz now echoes a complaint from current officers that internal affairs in general, and Lloyd in particular, operate to protect the department's image at all costs. Absolutely. He's the guy that they chose because he doesn't question management, Munoz said of Lloyd. In the Mission case, Munoz pointed to inconsistent outcomes for 2 captains who oversaw the police division accused of wrongdoing. One was transferred and later promoted, while another is fighting for his job amid accusations that he failed to rein in his officers. Two other supervisors, Lieutenant Mark Garza and Sergeant Jorge George Gonzalez, were accused by the department of creating a working environment that resulted in the creation of a police gang, according to an internal LAPD report. Both Garza and Gonzalez have sued the city, alleging that even though they reported the wrongdoing as soon as they became aware of it, they were instead punished by the LAPD after the scandal became public. According to Munoz's report and interviews with department sources, Lloyd was almost single-handedly responsible for breaking the Mission case open. Began with a complaint in late December 2022 made by a motorist who said he was pulled over and searched without reason in a neighboring patrol area. Lloyd learned that the officers involved had a pattern of not documenting traffic stops, exploiting the loopholes in the department's auditing system for dashboard and body cameras. The more Lloyd dug, the more instances he uncovered of these so-called ghost stops. A few months later, undercover internal affairs detectives began tailing the two involved officers, something that Garza and Gonzalez both claimed they were kept in the dark about. Well, you do it to civilians. As of last month, 4 officers involved had been fired and another 4 had pending disciplinary hearings where their jobs hung in the balance. 3 others resigned before the department could take action. The alleged ringleader, Officer Alan Carrillo, faces charges of theft and altering, planning, or concealing evidence. Court records show he was recently offered pretrial diversion by LA County prosecutors, which could spare him jail but require him to stop working in law enforcement. Carrillo has pleaded not guilty to the charges. In an interview with the LA Times, Gonzalez, the sergeant who was facing termination, recalled a moment during a recorded interrogation that he found so troubling, he contacted the police union director, Jamie McBride, to express his concern. McBride, he said, went to Lloyd's boss, then Deputy Chief Michael Rimkunis, seeking Lloyd's removal from internal affairs. The move failed. Lloyd kept his job. Rimkunis confirmed the exchange with the police union leader in an interview with the LA Times. He said that while he couldn't discuss Lloyd specifically due to state personnel privacy laws, in general, the department assigns higher profile internal affairs cases to detectives with a proven track record. Lloyd's got a proven track record. He's a bulldog. He's a grim reaper. Gonzalez, though, can't shake the feeling that Lloyd crossed the line in trying to track him during an interrogation. Said that at one point while Lloyd was asking questions, the detective casually flipped over his phone, which had been sitting on the table. On the back of the protective case, Gonzalez said was a Grim Reaper sticker. And then, as he turned it, he looked at me as if to get a reaction from me, Gonzalez said. He went on, it was definitely a way of trying to intimidate me, for sure. Now, there's so many things here. Where do I even begin? I'm going to let you guys comment too, but I guess everything that I was going to get back to, I'm just going to put in a little jar and say this. Here are these cops, LAPD police officers, and the LAPD is known for violating civil rights, taking shortcuts to try to find people guilty, searching people's cars on traffic stops. Oh, I smell marijuana. And probably the guy doesn't even smoke marijuana. I don't smoke weed. Well, get out of your car. We're going to search it. Things of that nature. These cops are out there doing this dirty crap to people just to try to effect an arrest. And the minute an internal affairs guy starts investigating them, they go, our rights are being violated. I'm going to the police union because you're violating my rights. Well, what about what you do to people on the street every day? Then these cops are like, well, he does this and he, doesn't put my stuff in the report. And he asked me questions, the same questions to try to find me guilty and see if I'm lying. Yeah, you do the same thing to people on the street every day. So that's why I wanted to give you this story. I burst out laughing when I read it because I was like, here are these cops who mess with people on the street every day. Now, if it's a criminal, if it's somebody that's out there stealing from people or assaulting people, hey, you know what? I got no sympathy. But when you just stop somebody who just maybe he was speeding and you go, get out of your car, I'm going to search it. Oh, well, you ain't got no right. Get out, I'm going to arrest you, whatever, you know where I'm going. As cops are out there doing that, and now they're crying because the internal affairs guy is asking them questions. Well, you're trying to find me guilty. That's what you do to people on the street every day. What do you guys think? Let me know.